So, can you guys introduce yourself?
I'm John Day.
And I'm Laurie Day, and we are veterinary missionaries in Mongolia.
We had been in Idaho for 29 years doing dairy work, reproduction, nutrition, record keeping, employee training. Lori ran our milk quality lab. And then what was really neat is all of that experience we're using as our template as we train veterinarians in Mongolia to do dairy work.
There are many opportunities in the veterinary profession, and one of them is veterinary missions, in which my husband and I would have never in a billion years thought that we'd be doing this. My brother was a vet, and I actually got a job at the same laboratory that he had worked at. And that's where John and I met before I even got into veterinary college. And over a few months, we did things together there within the lab, and there was a trip we needed to go on to go sample a 700 cow dairy down in Chowchilla, which was about a 3-hour drive. And we had a very, very nice time visiting and chatting in both directions. I started thinking, wow, that's a pretty neat guy, and we started dating and then got married 2 years later. Yeah, as he says, we met over pulling cow teeth. So we started practicing in Idaho in 1990. Late 90s, we'd been married 10 years. Practice was going well. We got quite involved in organized veterinary medicine, and we're on some different committees with some national organizations.
I was given the opportunity to do a lot of speaking around the country. There was a point where I was spending more and more time away, and Lori told me she's getting used to not having me there. I was creating a situation where instead of bringing Lori and I closer together, it was driving us apart. When the kids leave, then we won't know each other and could very well end up divorced.
And then 9/11 happened. It just kind of shone a spotlight on, what are you doing with your life? Is it valuable? CVM has been a really neat organization to be involved with. John first got acquainted with them in about 2004 at a bovine practitioners meeting. Came home, was all excited, talking about short-term missions.
And we thought, we could do this, and got an invitation from Gerald Mitchum to come to Mongolia. When we first came to Mongolia and we went out with a team, we saw the 2 teacher evangelists that were there, and we watched them, and they had such a passion to share Christ with everybody that they met.
We had nothing to do because the veterinary stuff fell through, whole meetings were missed, people didn't show up, and then we break an axle in the middle of nowhere. We're stuck in this town for 3 days.
And then a couple people come and start talking and meet an older woman, a grandma, who has been praying for somebody to come and tell her more about who Christ is. And have 5 people come to Christ in this little town. And then a year later, finding out that a good part of that whole town had come to Christ through this broken axle, and us slowing down long enough to be able to share the gospel. God did some just amazing things, and so we thought, okay, we need to get back here with our kids. And so in 2009, 3 years later, we came for about 10 days to experience a different culture,
The short-term thing was kind of about as far as I thought we would ever go with CVM. I really did not expect us to ever move into long-term service. And my husband suggested we explore long-term missions in 2018, which was right when our daughter left for college, and we were just at the very beginning of empty nester season, and I told him he was nuts. We prayed over that for several months and weren't getting a definite, we should go to Mongolia, from God. And so, like, do I, don't I, but we just felt like this gentle nudge.
We have heard it a number of different times that you can't steer a boat at the dock. It needs to be moving, and so we made that commitment. We're going to start moving this direction, and we'll see where God leads it. If he doesn't want us going to Mongolia, if this is not what his plan is, he'll shut the doors, but instead doors just opened on up.
And so I called it my Indiana Jones. He steps out over the abyss there, and he puts his hand over his heart, and he sticks his foot out over the abyss and closes his eyes and just steps off. It just felt like we were sticking our foot towards Mongolia and praying, God, we're going to move, and you just steer. Please steer us. And he just opened the doors.
The Mongolians are extremely hospitable, partly because there's so much distance between people that when a stranger comes along, you're automatically welcomed into their gear. You're provided a snack. If it happens to be a mealtime, you'll be offered a meal. The countryside culture is more traditional. They are very proud of their heritage. About 2/3 of the people in this world rely on their livestock. But beyond being a food source, it's their bank account. Oftentimes, it's their transportation or their tractor. They rely on their animals in so many aspects for their life that when we can show them ways that they can make their livestock healthier, we build this, I like to call it an animal bridge. And if we don't have the language, don't know the culture so well, it's why it's really neat to be able to work with nationals and help them build credibility with the veterinarians and herders to be able to speak and share Christ with them. And so in a lot of respects, if you will, we're kind of a dog and pony show. We attract the people, but it's the Mongolians themselves who will be doing the real work that is necessary. If God's calling us to do something, he's going to take care of the logistics that need to be taken care of. Prayer is important, but after the prayer, it's time to go into action and start going where you think God's calling you, and then allow God to open those doors or to shut the doors and guide you to the plans that he has for you. We remarked a number of different times how blessed we both feel that we're together on this adventure.
The results aren't up to us. He's going to shine his light where he's going to shine it, and his word's not going to return void. And our job is just to be obedient to whatever it is that he's set in front of us to do. And if we can just be obedient in even if it's a tiny little part, that's what we're called to do.